Hey everybody, it's Paige, and we are back here at the State of the Black Man's Mental Health Podcast. And today we have an amazing conversation that we're gonna have with two young men. Well, a young man and two older men that I revere highly and love when we have our conversation. And this conversation is really on the transition into manhood and what does that typically look like. I know for me, a lot of it has been things that I've learned over time, but I really want to see what these gentlemen have to say. So what we're going to do here is introduce our guest. And I'm going to start with Dr. Mark. Dr. Mark, introduce yourself to the people.
Too easy. I am Dr. Mark Loud. I'm the founder of Elevated Black Man LLC. And the conversation that we're going to have today is, hey, this is what I'm here for. I am an elevation, accountability, and wellness coach, men's coach. This is the topic that I think is going to be most important for men to be transparent, to be able to have these conversations. So I'm absolutely happy to be here.
Awesome. And then Cope. Tell the people who you are and what you do.
Copeland, I am the truck driving mental health advocate, I guess.
Yes, own it.
Okay. And yeah, y'all see Dr. Mark's name is incorrectly typed at the bottom, and that's on me. So I do apologize for that, Doc.
What is in the name?
It's my name, but it is what it is.
That's okay.
Now, Doc, one of the things that we discussed earlier, and the conversation was around. It was a simple one, right? Mm-hmm. Brother Copeland here wanted to take shots of Simone Cuneros. And, he was like, first of all, I'm a grown-ass man. He's like, first of all, I'm a grown-ass man. We're going to take, we need some ice. We need a glass. But it spawned into a much larger conversation around things that are passed down as to what is it to be a black man.
Exactly.
And so from your perspective, like, what are some of the things that you feel like has been missing? Or what are some of the things that you feel like you've learned over time? Okay. And then on the other side, Copeland, I know you bring that diverse and dynamic contrarian concept to things. I want you along this conversation to kind of understand, like, how you see the world and how you see things as they transitioned over time. Cool? So, Doc.
Too easy. Absolutely too easy. I'm going to start basics. I always do. I think foundations are very important, and that goes into what we have. We have the foundation of manhood, but if I were to write down here what my foundation of manhood is and have you to write this one, and Brother Cope, I'm going to say your title again. He is the truck driving mental health expert. That's important. Advocate. I'm sorry. Advocate. That's important.
Most of my stuff is opinions.
Exactly. Okay. And that's important though. So you would write down your definition of manhood, and all three of us would have three different definitions. And whose is right? We all have been raised in different environments. So if I was brought up in an area where, it was heavy drug involvement, which a lot of African men have, and that guy that comes up in a shiny car with women, that's a vision of manhood. For me, I grew up in a rural farming area. My father, my uncles, who all grew up, sharecropping and left the farm to go to the military type of deal. That was my image of manhood. But on the Webster's Dictionary, it says manhood is the state or period from boy to man. I don't know what that is. So that transformation has to happen. And that's, I think, where we started with some of this conversation today of having conversations. My shirt says that's important for people to see that. It's it. Black fathers matter. So too often you have a separation of manhood, father, man, and all those dynamics. But if this is taught, which is true if you look at the statistics. So that's the basis. I think that foundation of understanding that manhood is transformational, and there are tools that I think if we are taught, right and or wrong, but it has to come from conversation. So that'll be my basis.
but I'll just use my experience just to start. Like, the idea of black fathers matter. I think one of the things that I learned from my dad is to work hard, but yet to not make some of the same mistakes, right? I think I've gone my life in mirroring or anti-mirroring. I'm not sure if that's even a concept.
That's important though.
It's a concept.
Of anti-mirroring what the people I've seen in front of me, like especially the males, not do. Because majority of the males in my life that pretty much reared me are 3-4 kids in and struggling.
Right.
And once again, not to their own fault. It's just their circumstance. And, you know, living in certain cities, it causes you to remain in that rat race.
Right.
Now, I've also, on the other side, grew up with all women. And so a woman try to raise a boy to be a man sometimes comes off a little different.
Correct.
Because that heavy hand is, you know, they say spare the rod, spoil the child.
Correct.
But sometimes not sparing that rod leads to trauma.
Right. Well, let me pause you real quick because I know this conversation is for African American men.
Yeah.
And I am so proud and I want to applaud. And we are in a political season. It's not about our next president, but Black women have done a great job of doing duties that maybe they should not have done. So I don't want any Black woman to think that they did not do their part in raising men. However, when you have that man hand on a child, gender wise, it's going to make a difference, positive and or negative. So I just don't want anyone to think.
Oh no!
So go ahead.
I mean, no, because I learned most of what life can be from women.
Correct.
Right? Because most of the men in my life were head down and trying to make ends meet, or head down trying to keep like 4 or 5 kids alive. Right. And so their involvement and their involvement in the house was more so like, I'm home, go to your mom. Right. And so Cope.
Yeah.
You know,
that's real.
Pops, you a dad, you are a truck driver, and you also are a thought leader, right?
Okay.
And how does this concept of manhood look like for you? And how did you come to your perception of what manhood is and who you've become today?
So I think that where I'm at today, and like right this very second, what I think manhood is a spirit, because what Dr. Mark said was absolutely true, that all 3 of us can have 3 different definitions of what manhood is, yet all 3 of us have respect of each other's manhood. Yeah. So there is a level of understanding that happens somewhere, which maybe we're disconnected from that part that can actually translate it from us, which is why we all have these different interpretations of it. But when you see it, you know it. Like, one father might be over there and he's always with his kids and he's happy as shit. So you know that you know that's a man. That's a man. Right. This guy isn't with his kids as much, but he's fighting to get to his kids. Every day it's about getting to his kids. He's not as happy as he is, but you respect them both.
Correct.
Right.
Because they're both doing what it is that they have to do with their circumstances. So I think that, and I think that, of course, that there has to come a mentality with it, right? That's where initiations come from, where we're telling the boy now, you're transitioning from boyhood to manhood.
Correct.
And if you look at it, something changes inside that boy and he becomes different. So there's definitely a spirit. We may not all understand it. I may not even understand it. Right. But I think that manhood is this spirit that is within the divine masculine that many of us are able to exude.
Absolutely awesome. And cultivating, though. So that's where I keep saying it. I think it's the conversation, because I do think it's spirit. So when you think about, keep a line, and you talk about societies where men were sent out to become men and they came back or they kind of didn't. Kind of harsh, but you still had that guidance that went with that when you come back as a man. There are certain responsibilities, but it still was through language. And so, again, nothing against my father. My father is my absolute idol. But watching him, and luckily my father was a good role model, because we didn't have a lot of conversation. It was just more, boy, yeah. But I understood what that meant. That language, I knew what that meant. So I got that manhood from him, even though he wasn't in my life the first parts of my life because of divorce and life changes and all that kind of stuff. I moved in with my father when I was in the 7th grade. And that night and day from having him there, the light bulb was totally different. I always was an intelligent kid, but just being able to have that one-to-one through seeing, because he walked like a man, in my opinion, right?
And that's literally the life that my son is about to have.
Right, he has to see you.
Where he's with his mom, and like you mentioned, his mom is doing a phenomenal job. Like, this kid is phenomenal as is.
Good.
But it's just that who am I to settle?
Correct.
And who am I to settle for his life?
Correct.
And so I just know that there's extra that he can have and that he can get that can propel what he already has to places where we didn't even imagine that we could get to. Exactly. And these kids nowadays, they don't have what we had. They don't have a ceiling. Like, that ceiling has been removed.
We've been knocking it down.
And
I mean, can you say that? Can you say that again? Because I think
they don't have a ceiling.
Well, here's the thing. Like, amongst this table, Dr. Mark has broken the ceiling multiple times in public perception. Okay, right?
Understood.
So, like, one of the conversations we've had was around self-actualization, and Dr. Mark this week has been the epitome of realizing where you've come from.
Correct.
But it was difficult to see this path along its way, right?
Right.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because I think there's a combination of, at this table, having your father in the house, i.e. like nuclear family, mom, dad, and not having to bounce between the two. And then having your dad not in the house, which is balancing rules between one household and another.
Exactly.
Right? And then I believe you had both parents, correct?
Yeah.
I had the bouncing between the two and trying to figure out who to listen to and not. How did that influence you in understanding who you are as a young boy? Because once again, I believe you said Webster defined manhood.
Or Webster or Oxford is the transition from boy to man. Manhood.
Boy to man. And
just
so
that simple.
As a boy, there's a lot that you learn either from your father, from your uncles, from your cousins, and then from your mom, and from your sisters. Like, how was that as a boy, right, growing up as bouncing between mom and dad, and trying to figure out your voice there? Because you're from an old school space where a child is to be seen and not heard. And that's pretty difficult.
Very. Well. We're not going to talk about corporal punishment, but it ain't that difficult. A couple Oakwoods, but no, I think, and it's so hard though, because again, I'm from a rural community, so my dad lived 5-6 miles down the street. His family was there, my family there. The dirt road, my family lived on that dirt road. It was a nuclear community. So the grown men in my family, my uncles, my grandfathers, there still were male images. So I constantly had male images. I was blessed not to and I think that, I would say that was a blessing, because I got to see multiple country men. The dynamics are totally different. Doesn't make it right and or wrong, but I got good foundational values from that. Now, the thing that made a difference is when I went to live with my father, I think that intrinsicness of just walking and seeing and smelling and just being around my dad. It was just that manness. And I think that allowed me to have, more falling moments. I think my mom definitely protected me being the baby boy. But I got to fall more when I was with my dad.
He's not a baby anymore.
There it is. But I got to fall more.
We can't gloss over that. Because that is, you have to expound on that, because it's something that I see also.
Huge.
And speak on the
I call it the Band-Aid theory. Yeah. Because when a child falls, your little girl, you're going to pick her up and doll her up and this kind of thing and run her off. But when little boys fall, it's like, boy, get up. You okay? Get up. Keep going. Well, he's a child. He doesn't know that he's okay. And why are we as an adult so caught into this manliness that I can't go look at my boy's knee? What if his bone's sticking out? You know what I mean? Like, how do we determine that? Because he's still going to cry. Stop that crying and go. You know what I mean? You get to pick it up, you look at it. And I think for little boys, we should, kiss their knee too, wipe it off, and send them on back out to play. But don't immediately do that, because when you do that, you take away his emotional intelligence, because he's taught that he can't cry. Boys and men should cry. Boys, I'm talking like the song now, boys and men should cry. Right. There are hormones and things in tears that dulls pain. So we're retarding that as a kid, and you're taught as you go through life, every time you're disappointed, shake it off. Keep running. Keep going. That's bullshit. I mean, it absolutely is. Think about that. So I think the concept of that is, with my father, I got to fall more, and not that he didn't send me back out, but there was work to be done. There was things you were expected to do, but the part of that conversation was there. He at least saw the need to be able to say, yeah, go on. Whereas my mother, my aunts, and all of them, it would be more of a coddle. You know what I mean? It was more of a coddle when I was taught I could do all things. My aunts told me that I could do everything. I was incredible, but I didn't have any war wounds. You see what I mean? And I know this sounds conflicting, but if that's what you're asking, when I moved in with my father, I got to fall more.
But the thing is, as the structure of your community, you were giving a well-balanced experience.
Correct.
Because there is as a young black man, still loved on, still appreciated, still seen. And there's the other side of, all right, well, I see the boo-boo, but we still got to get work done. I acknowledge you. I acknowledge it, but let's keep it moving.
Correct. Put a Band-Aid on it. Band-Aids are important. Kids love Band-Aids.
Listen, Band-Aids come in all colors and sizes nowadays. You ain't got to have the one color that don't match your skin tone.
Right.
Equal liquid Band-Aid. I love those. Now, Copeland, growing up with both parents in the household, and you've talked in reverence to your dad being who he is and kind of making you somewhat of who you are today. Like, what was that experience like? Because you're talking about the balance between feminine and masculine in the house and both being assertive. You know, how was your childhood coming up, and, you know, how did you find that shift?
So it's like you don't recognize it as a kid at all, because your father works all the time or whatever. And so you don't even recognize that somewhere in your head it's being normalized to get out there and get it for your family. So all you really see at that point as a kid is that when mom needs reinforcement or she needs a stronger jutsu, she calls dad.
Reinforcement.
So dad is really like in the lion pride, like he's coming when it's a bigger prey and you need to get your ass beat.
Right.
So when I was a kid, that's kind of what I looked at my dad as, is like the disciplinarian or whatever. And then as you get older and then you have your own, and you know, you have problems with this shit too. You know, like I have always had problems with authority, because most people with authority don't care about you.
Huge.
My parents,
huge.
I couldn't doubt that my parents cared about me ever. And even if I wasn't grateful about it then, they tried to get me into private school. They put me in therapy. They were trying to understand, which is hilarious to me at this point now. I wish,
especially a West Indian family.
They were trying to understand why I wasn't getting good grades in school. Okay. I knew exactly why I wasn't getting good grades in school. Homework and projects you had to take home were about 35 to 45% of your grade. I'm not going to get good grades because I had a spiritual aversion to you sending me home with work to do. And I didn't even understand it. Like, I worked so hard as a kid to not do homework.
Wow.
That's so counterintuitive.
I'm just explaining it from where I'm sitting now. I didn't know that's what I was doing.
Correct.
But I so didn't want to do it. But when we look back at it now, and now everybody's like, yeah, homework it's kind of trash. You know what I mean? It doesn't really, it's just busy work, because I get it. And maybe if they did it differently, like I was getting the homework from this work that you did in school the day. So I don't want to go home and practice. I'm okay. I want to move on, or leave me alone. And so I wasn't really a great student, but they wanted to figure out why, because I was so smart. Okay. But nobody ever took that into account, that it's simple, because really that's all it was. I didn't have those types of psychological problems when I was a kid. They put me on ADHD medication and all of that, but that wasn't the issue. I was great at test taking. I was always in the 99th percentile in the state tests and all of that. It's the homework. Make me do the work at school.
So you were the original Everson. You were complaining about it's practice.
Yeah.
I dropped 50. I dropped 60, but y'all talking about me not attending practice.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think I'm not sure if I struggled through the same thing or I experienced some of the same things. Like for me, I wasn't diagnosed with ADHD as a child, which led to a lot of things that I realize now that for me, it was more so like I'm bored. So I had good grades. I scored high in the different, state tests, but I had behavior issues, right? What happens when the kid gets bored? They become distracted,
something,
right? And I say that just to say, like, I understand where you're coming from, because, like, I wish my parents would have had that foresight of saying, hey, let's understand how you are, how you work. But that's not always the case.
Right.
But
because
nobody understood how I was, though,
Right.
because I was going through these therapists and psychologists or whatever, and they're like, oh, he's angry and whatever. But I'm like, I'm not really angry. I'm more so bored and disappointed with the world. And so they never actually, because they never told me. They never actually came to the point to be like, you know what, maybe we should just stop sending him home with homework, which they later on decided wasn't really a thing, and they stopped giving everybody homework now. So they never actually figured it out, but I recognized the attempt. Personally, I didn't then, because I was being shuttled over here, go put in this special program, and not like special like dumb, but like
No, I understand.
you know what their solution to the kid who wasn't doing it?
Yep.
Give him
Put them in a scholars.
Exactly.
Put them in scholars courses or magnet courses, because if
He's bored.
if you challenge him long enough, he will be less distracting.
Yeah.
no.
Was this in the States?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me just throw in a couple little things. First, let's go back, because everything you just experienced, if you were to take a poll, the average black man has had the exact same thing. The exact same thing. So it comes into, again, the psyche of us as men. And not only just as men, but as African-American men, there's a dynamic that doesn't meet the spectrum of what they're trying to define. And I'm saying that as a medical professional. So from that standpoint, when I say communication, and I hear where you're going, it's great that your parents had the opportunity, the access to health care or whatever it was, to at least get some therapy in, because the conversation is so important. And this is a shameless plug for Put My Cheese Back On.
Get my cheese back on my Cracker Foundation.
And part of Elevated Black Man is when you donate, our funds go to the opportunity for us to have therapists that look like us, that understands our psyche, our dynamics, the things that we went through. Because if you had a female, black or male, but definitely black female in this issue, they know our little black boys. And certain times there are medications. I'm not against medication. Medication is important. It's very important for when it's needed, but there's certain things that little black boys do, and channeling that energy or thought process from our perspective, I think would make a huge difference. And I think that's the whole part of this conversation. We have to have more conversations as black people, especially black men, on any and everything.
Yeah.
And let me tell myself, I'll tell my story. I told my dad when I turned 50, I was upset with him because he didn't tell me, when you got to go pee, go pee. I drove a little bit too long and I had some urine stains and I was embarrassed about it. But our bladders are going to get, you know what I mean? So those are little conversations. Sorry for the segue, but that goes back to, I think the conversation makes a big difference.
So let me ask you guys both this question. This is both of you. I think your both experiences coming up were influenced and not influenced by society, right? I think your societal norms were based on Southern South.
Okay.
Your societal norms were based on a combination of West Indian and American culture. But between the two of y'all, I think you've ignored all of them. And
Not all of them.
Okay, so I'll let you go there and
Right.
think on that, right? Like,
Okay.
How did these norms have an impact on you guys and how you saw things?
Yeah.
And we're talking about the transition into manhood. Like, how did that have an impact on your transition to manhood? So, like,
Huge.
So you mentioned that you didn't ignore all of them. Like, you. And I joked around earlier saying that you're a contrarian, right? But it's not that you're a contrarian. You just deal with, the lack of a better term, the facts and things that are real to you. So, like, how does that differ?
Reality.
Or how do you see that as a young kid and not allow the societal norms around you, especially in New York, to kind of have an impact on how you see, because most of the people nowadays are all suffering from groupthink and no individuality.
100.
I thought people were stupid. I mean, and I'm not even gonna lie. And it's,
People are Americans. I don't want. I mean, I'm just.
Well, I think across the board.
Okay.
Human beings in general, like for instance, we will cut down the trees in ancient forests, right, that produce oxygen in order to make softer Kleenex, which we need to blow our nose when we get sick because of lack of oxygen. And this is like, and so when I was a kid, I understood that humans weren't as smart as we proclaimed to be. We were just kind of more in control of our environment, so we can make it seem a certain way. But yeah, it was easy for me. And when I say easy, I don't mean like the life was easy, because it becomes harder in life when you inherently can't comply with certain things. It does become harder in life. And I don't want my son to live the rebel life that I live, because it's not necessary. They're like, you can get to a point in life where you can power your vision without having to suffer the fight of trying to exclude yourself, because society wants you. If you are a viable man, if you don't have any real debilitating mental health issues, society wants you. They want you to be a part of their cog. You are useful, but so go be useful. And then take whatever it is that they have to offer. And you're going to get to a point where you now have amassed the resources that you need to implement your vision into life. The problem that I had was that I had a vision very, very early, and my vision wouldn't allow a lot of what it is that I had to do to get to what I just said. It wouldn't allow me to do that. Like, I didn't have the foresight to see that, suck it up. I was ready to fight right away, and I did. Like, I didn't do my homework. And it was simple, little, tiny things like that that I see in my son, where he wants to do his homework. He actually wants to get his homework out the way.
Exactly.
So that he can
go do other things.
That's what I should have done.
Yeah.
You know,
Shorten, what's it called? Shorten pain so you can delay the satisfaction.
it would have taken a lot. It would have, I promise you, I would have burnt way less calories doing the homework than I did trying to not do the homework.
So with that being said, like, so I mentioned the two societal norms placed on you. Which did you feel like you were more combative towards, your West Indian societal cultures and expectations, or your American?
I was more resistant to the Caribbean interpretation of what I needed to be in American society.
Brother.
When I would come home, and I told you I did very well on tests, but if I was to come home with an 85, which is I got I misspelled three words for some reason, it's a problem. And not no fake problem, not no ha problem. Like they were really upset. Like,
it's a different standard.
Like, what are you doing? How are you coming in here with less? Right. So you think that this is okay?
Why bring an 85 when you could have gotten 100? Because we know you're capable of.
Or even a 90. Like, if I would have got a 90, I wouldn't have had the problem.
No, because if you got the 90, they're like, you could have gotten a 95.
Yeah, but the 90-95 is like, that's more the ha.
Right.
The 85, like, people don't understand. Like, that's really an issue. And when I look back at it, I think I'm okay with it. You know, I'm okay because the only issue that I have is that they didn't take any part in my homework. I realized that I think was really a big part of why my son is okay with doing homework, because it always was a thing his mom would do with him. I would do with him. Like, we would do it together.
That's it.
And I think that if they would have done that, it would have lessened when they were upset. Right. And I think I would have done better.
My parents didn't do homework with me because their parents didn't do homework with them.
And that's why my parents didn't.
And that's not ignorance in the fact that you're not smart. It's just you just didn't know.
They didn't know any better. Like, I learned I had problems with my parents when through my woke phase, right? Mm-hmm. Because I'm like, you should have done this, and you should have done that.
That's awesome. You
should have done this, and the studies, and all of the information. They didn't know any of that. They came over here to try and provide a better way for me, and the best that they possibly could, and they succeeded. They did what it is that they set out to do. They didn't. It's not that they didn't want good for me there. They didn't know that was necessary.
That's awesome.
And did they even have the energy with all of the work that they had to do to get us to right here?
Down. Yeah, hey, boy, I sent you to school to learn.
So I had to then realize, like, we're talking a lot of shit about people who gave absolutely 100% for us. We can look with hindsight. We're supposed to stand on their shoulders. We're supposed to know more. We're supposed to be better than they are. And so for me, the bare minimum is making sure that your kid is taken care of, making sure that their education is taken care of. Like, that's the bare minimum. And, you know, to be honest, I feel shitty a lot because I feel like that's what I'm doing is the bare minimum. My son only wants one thing from me, and he's expressed it all the time.
That's easy.
Time.
Time.
He expresses it all. He's so aware that that's all he wants is to see me more often. And so for me, like, I'm that guy that I was talking about earlier. That's my fight. That's my mission. My mission is to
that's the driving force for
to get myself to the position where I'm doing whatever, but it's not interfering with me being a father.
Exactly. Can I get a timeout? I'm sorry. I have to do this. I do, because, brother, what you just said, I want to publicly say, I see you. I admire the work you're doing, and I want people to see that Black men want to be a part of their life, and this image that we don't. This is a great example, but on the other side of it is, yeah, I'm gonna make a big fucking deal about it, because you don't have to do that. You have a lot of options, but you're choosing your child, which is your option. Yeah. You see, I see the wordplay on that, but I see you. I affirm you, brother. I really want you to hear me say that I'm proud you're doing that.
I appreciate it.
He's
really
not just a truck driver, y'all. Y'all listen. I know how to get this guy to talk. Well, actually, it doesn't take much to get him to talk, but I know how to get him to do it publicly.
But again, as brothers, we have to do that.
I'm working on a couple of labels. Like, give me by this time next year, I promise you guys, I'll have some labels.
Okay,
that's okay.
Now, Dr. Mark, country boy.
Yeah.
And what was racist South? And probably
no. The world is still racist. Yeah.
Okay, well, still is racist South.
But, yeah.
When we talk about societal norms in the culture and the environment you were, it is the continuation of the family business. But you've kind of stepped out of that. How was making the decision to step out of being that shit?
Well, I got the pleasure of kind of like, I hate to cut you off, but I'm trying just for clarification. So my grandfather sharecropped. Which automatically means his boys were sharecropping with him. During the transition of the 60s, several of my uncles, including my dad, they enlisted in the Army to get off the farm.
Gotcha.
Right? So the farming part is when it died down. Land still available, houses, that kind of thing. But when they came back, you know the story. Coming back from Vietnam, they didn't get the GI Bill. They didn't get the VA loan for a house. But my dad was able to use what he learned in the military to make a life for himself. Right. But also with him coming back, and my mother, I'm from a divorced family. And this is no excuse or anything, but the realization that my father came back around 21, 22 years old with two young boys at home, Vietnam twice, exposure, and now we use this word called PTSD. PTSD started back then. His exposure to Agent Orange and all of that stuff. So you're coming back to a society that, one, doesn't accept you. Number two, I've been without my wife. I'm not giving excuses for my father because I don't quite know the story because, again, I was too young. When my dad came back shortly after, all I know is I'm in a divorced family. So again, therapy is one of those things that I think everybody should have from birth. From birth, especially if you're Black. I gotta sneak that in. I'm not a therapist. I'm a coach. I'm not a therapist. But I think it's important because where you're leading in this question, being able to have the thought process to be able to know who I am, why I am, and just kind of watching things around you, I think is huge. So I had to cut you off there because it's not extending the family farming. But to be able to be thrown out into the world that you're a little bit intelligent, there are things that you can do. So it wasn't a decision not to, because the world has a weird way of doing things. Right. And I'm in the process of moving back home now. I've been gone for 28, 30 years. So I'm going back to my country community, but I get to bring back a wealth of knowledge and things that we can do that wasn't there when I was there. Now, the community, I'm not going to disparage my community. I have a great community. It's advanced like life has. But me as a Black man coming back with some of the things that I can do in my community is huge. So for me,
the new path of the talented 10th.
There we go. Yes, there we go. So all those failures and all those things I had to go up against that I didn't know I was going up against because this conversation I'm saying I didn't have, it sharpened me. But for that next generation, just as I applauded him, I hear Cope saying, I'm going to sharpen my child because he wants to do his homework. And if he didn't, at least I have some thought process and I'm not going to make him do it. I'm assuming he would come up with some creative way to be involved with him so that he see homework is fun. There's that transition. So I think for me, while I may not have had all those things, I was trying so hard to do things for approval of people. It wasn't for me. It was because to be a man, to do this, these are the things that you're supposed to do. And so in this part of my life right now, I get to sit back, and I've taken you and hijacked your question, but I get to sit back from those things learned from the farm and me getting a chance to transition and put farming into my life in the world, because I'm still planting seeds and I'm cultivating them. I'm learning to water them and those type of things. And I learned that from.
So give me a chance to rephrase that.
Okay, sorry about it.
So given the climate or given the expectation, right? What was the expectation for you as a young man to grow and become something versus the decisions you made to what led to who you are today?
Correct. So again, in my community, and it's not this, again, I didn't grow up where you have to do these grades because you're going to go to college and you have to plant this way. It was, we worked. I'm from a community of working people. I have a couple of cousins that had gone to college, but I'm pretty like the third one in my family, I think, that might have gone in all different ages. So I'm that other generation. So for me, I think it was the expectation for me because I could see other things out there, and I was never pushed to say I have to farm or I have to do that. I got to carve my own way. I had coaches and seeing my dad and just people around me and being exposed, that whole thing of being from the country, but yet I was able to get in the car and drive somewhere, you know what I mean? Like way out and not have to stay within the community or stay within the state even. I got a chance to move around a little bit. And I think that opened my eyes to there is so much more out there. So I don't know. I think that made the hugest difference for me. I don't think expectations were placed on me. I think it was more of I think he's intelligent. He's smart. He's going to go to college. General conversation. I had no one training me. I have a cousin who I call my Uncle Archie. He was very influential from a standpoint that he was military as well, got his degree through there. His world traveled. And so I don't remember all the things, but I do remember when he would pop into town and the little conversations and little seeds. I have an uncle, my Uncle Warren on my bonus mom side, who's, Dr. Warren. He's a scholar and little things. I don't remember half the things they said, but the fact was they were placed in there and they left enough for me to have ideas of. So I really, but I never had, you got to do this, you have to do that, I never grew up with that. And I think I was blessed that I just had natural interest and I could have went any direction. You know what I mean? Yeah. I could have stayed at home. I don't think anybody would have necessarily been they would have been disappointed because I was excelling the whole time.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right.
I think the expectation was placed on myself because I could see other things versus family.
I think I had a combination of both, right? My mom came into this country to make a better life for the four of us, right? So much so that she left 3 children and came here to work and then just happened to have me. One of the biggest emphasis my mom had on me was similar to yours, was like, if you have a B, you could have brought in a B plus. If you got a B plus, you could have brought an A. And that kind of, I'm not gonna lie, it shifted the way I saw things, right? Because we were talking earlier, one of the biggest struggles I ran into is feeling like I've done enough, or my contributions to society was enough that people can, when I walk away or when I go, there's nothing but like, he did this.
Yeah.
Right. And so
That's huge.
For me, there weren't expectations. So there were expectations that I do well in school, but there wasn't expectations of like a particular career path.
Okay.
Now, my sister is an actual doctor. She's a pediatrician. My mom calls me, oh yeah, he's a doctor of computers. I'm like, Mom, let's not do that. Because when you start throwing doctor in front of something, it starts to shift the skill set. Right?
Correct.
Not that I'm not great at what I do. It's just level setting the expectations of what people expect of
Words
you.
mean things.
And so for me, it's always been paving my own path, but also I think part of where we shift from the boy to the man is understanding what we don't want to experience. And I think this is part of the conversation. We're trying to figure out, like, you know, what was that transition moment from you? Because, I mean, we're all boys till we turn about 25, 26, or you have that first child and you realize, all right, I got to step up. You know what I mean? So what was that transition for you guys to realize that I'm no longer a kid. I'm no longer being treated like a child?
Well, for me, it wasn't even about when just thinking now, looking back at it, it wasn't a matter of being treated like a child. I think it went from when my purpose in life was to have fun to actually having a purpose in life. And because I can say that at some point in life, like I left home when I was 16 because I was stupid. So my level of responsibility was always at a certain level, but I wouldn't claim that just because I was some pseudo taking care of myself at 17, that I was a man at 17.
Right.
You know, I ended up in college, and for me, I think that when I'm looking at myself now, it wasn't until I developed a purpose or understood that I had a purpose. I guess I was always the type of person, I never liked bullies. So I grew up in a Caribbean household. You know, I had cousins. We used to go back home and all of that. So I had understandings of the things that I want to impart. Like I have culture, I have traditions, we have community. And so that was always important. It wasn't until I realized that I was fucking sheltered as much as I got beat.
He says, as much as I got beat. I'm just like,
you could imagine being, like, people talk about sheltered people. You don't think about it, but like to be sheltered and to be beat the way Caribbean parents beat us back in the day, like it doesn't compute. But then it wasn't until I got to college that I really realized like I was sheltered, because that's when I realized so many people came from single parent
households. Yeah.
I didn't even realize that was not that was such a thing. Like I'm one of the only people that I know whose parents are still together today. And then I fuck it up and I'm not with the mother of my sons. But you know, like they did it. Like I had both of them, and you know, even though I hated both of them at times for what it was that they were doing, I can see where being there, just being able to see them. Like my mom didn't teach me how to cook. I just watched, and she would yell at me when I messed it up.
Exactly.
Figured it out.
Or like, Mom, that don't taste quite good. Let me come downstairs and fix it up.
My dad didn't teach me how to work hard. I just watched him. I just knew that he was never home. Not during the day and not ever on the weekdays. My dad doesn't have any hobbies.
Right. Work is his hobby. He got to pay the bills.
Like, do I want to be exactly like that? Absolutely not. But what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to sit here and pretend that my growth wasn't in fertile soil. I'm not going to sit here and disparage the soil for being soil just because I'm the tree that's bearing fruit. Like it's actually, you know, when we start to think like that, I think that starts to fix a lot of the schisms that we're having. Like, the children are our future. That's how we continue to live instead of this YOLO shit that a lot of us are on.
Exactly. And that's that societal part, I think. That plays a part in there.
So what about you? So when did you realize, oh shit, I'm now responsible for myself. I'm the man they've been expecting me to be?
Yeah, I can't give you a hard and rough answer because, again, I think I just had a desire for things. And to this day, I can remember I would meet my dad for lunch. My dad was working for a utility company. He was an operations supervisor, first African-American operations supervisor for Duke Power Company, which is now Duke Energy. Anyway, I would come from North Carolina State. I would drive and meet him for lunch to spend time with my dad, but my dad always would pat my hand with a couple of dollars. And I remember at age 25, I was in grad school, and I absolutely remember not taking the money from him. I needed the money, but I don't know why I didn't. I just didn't feel right. My dad giving me money. My dad has not given me a single dollar since that point. There were times when I, like you said, dumb, stupid, whatever you want to call it, I should have called home because I need help. But that pride jumped in there. So that transition came with some hardness. But for me, I just something that day said, I'm not taking my money from my dad. And I struggled for that, but I still think that's a part of that transition. Manhood is transitional. Now, did that make me a man? I don't think so. Too long of an episode and story, but I really don't feel that I'm a man until I was 50, 51. And that's that whole transition of Elevated Black Man, because all the things I had worked for, and there were so many great things, slowly things were being taken away. And as they took away that whole cape thing, you've heard me say it, I'm not going to go into it, but I was wearing the cape so hard that I wasn't thinking about me. And once I had to take the cape off and therapy was introduced, again, I'm a strong advocate for therapy, that transition there allowed me to become a man because I was trying to do manly things without explanation, without caring for myself. So I think that therapeutic moment for me would have been at age 51, which I think is way too late. I'm just saying, God, I got it in the name of Black Jesus. But the physical, I think, was 25 when I did not take money from my dad. And when I say money, I'm not saying, again, it's $20, $40 here kind of deal, not major thousands of dollars.
Basically, you would have taken a small loan of $1 million.
Yeah, exactly. I definitely would have done that. Thank God we didn't have that kind of money because I would have messed it up. But yeah.
So at this point, I want to kind of paint the picture for Elevated Black Man. What are your explain your 5 pillars, because I think it's part of this conversation.
Okay. Too easy. So the reason why in building Elevated Black Man, and again, I may misquote it, but we always hear from Frederick Douglass that whole saying, it's easier to train a child than to repair a broken man. And I'm going to pause. And when I say that, because you need to hear it, it's easier to, is it train a child, build a child, train a child than to repair a broken man. And while that remains true, those tenets are 100% true. But what do we do with the broken man? Like, what do we do with the broken man? I'm so upset with myself, because I've mentored a lot of children in the fraternity, just in life, football. But I don't think I was complete enough to truly mentor them. I think I was giving them some BS. I was giving them all those lofty ideas of you can be anything you can be, and et cetera, et cetera. But yet on the other side, I wasn't being a man. I wasn't living that life. I'm just saying all the good feel goods. But we can't leave the broken man out to pasture. We can't leave him to now train young boys if he's broken, right? So Elevated Black Man, I'm here to repair men, and not me physically doing it like I do when I do heart surgery as a critical care PA or surgeon. It's that ability for you.
Like you hear the like.
I mean, as a listener,
what?
As a listener, I'm like.
So what he said. He said critical care, but then he said heart surgery.
Yeah,
no. How many of us have the dexterity in our hands?
No. What we're not gonna do.
Light work.
No. What we're not gonna do is pretend like you can't make this computer sing and I can't turn it on and off. What we're not gonna say is you have the mental capacity to drive up and down these highways doing what you're gonna do. It's relative. So even that's a precious moment right there, because I could have gotten angry with what you just said. So part of Elevated Black Man and what you're asking about is mental, emotional, physical, social, and spiritual health. I don't like the word toxicity. Toxicity, when you think about toxicity, that's death. And I don't see black men as being toxic. I think there's some maybe toxic ways, because that's the word we use. I consider it to be unhealthy. There's unhealthy things that we do. But with Elevated Black Man, I think if we can mentally get to the point where we're strong enough to handle one or two or more of those, and the more we get them together. So that mental aspect is being able to use our mind effectively, and not be shunning ourselves for not feeling intelligent, because our mind is so important. The mind's a terrible thing to waste, the whole thing. The emotional part, if I was not emotionally strong, and my friends will tell you, I have a little bit of sensitivity to me. And I am okay with that now. But for a long time, that upset me. I ain't sensitive, and I'm exhibiting sensitive but sensitivity is also what saved me. Because right now it could have saved y'all, because I could have been upset and emotionally not able to handle y'all joking with me about something. You see how I rose all of a sudden? And that's how it happens. But I have the emotional intelligence now to recognize who I am mentally, emotionally. Y'all was just joking with me. You know how many people are dead because they can't take a joke?
Yeah.
And I can't even joke on myself. I couldn't. Now I can. I have to laugh at things, right? Physical. We always taught to exercise. We're always taught to eat right. We're always taught to be healthy, because your engine is your car. Some people like me, I'm into my truck. I treat my truck very well because I want it to take me where I'm going. You're out on that highway on that big 18-wheeler. You have to have a good mechanic. Yeah, I know that's a different story, but you have to have good gear. You have to have well-maintained gear. Right? That's that physical aspect. You don't have to be buffed and all this kind of stuff, but you have to have a strong heart. Strong heart, pumping well, is going to give you good circulation. It's going to make you think better, because you're getting more blood to your head. That physical aspect. Social aspect, I think, is really important, especially in that transition now, because socially, the death rate from murder, from homicide, is because I think people can't socialize with each other anymore. We don't socialize very well. We protect our block. We do all those things. And I'm not even talking from gang violence. I'm just talking from just even professionalism. There's professional death comes because we can't socialize with each other. We'll kill somebody else's career in a minute because we don't have the ability to have great conversations with others. So I think social health is just, spiritual. This is the part I still waver a little bit with, because I was brought up in a great Christian home, 100% Christian home. So when I say spiritual, I mean mind, body, spirit, your ability to be able to relate within this earth, be able to ground and have that, what you talked about earlier as man, we have that spiritual nature that goes through it without labeling it to something. It's bigger than us, period. It's just bigger than us. That's that spiritual aspect. And I think if you have those components, and I call it the MEPS, of an elevated black man, now we get to the point where we get to put it into action, which is what we just did. We get to now put it into action because, here's the Christian part. Faith without work is dead. You know what I mean? You're praying to God, but I was talking with my fraternity brother this morning who's having a colonoscopy today. I was helping him through that process because he says, even my congregants, I find myself telling them to bring it to God, but now I tell them bring it to God, but you still got some work to do. You know what I mean? So that part, that spiritual part of knowing that there's things we can do. And if we put those together and you maintain at least 3 of them, the other 2, you'll be able to switch off and on because you're not going to be selling in all of them. I told your wife earlier today, I'm in a great season right now. I'm in such a great season because all my elements, I think, are aligning really well. Tomorrow, something might happen and I'll change my mind in a minute. But as long as I work hard to keep those there, it's very important. And so those foundational elements allows us to activate it. And if we can activate it and have it, then I think it will elevate us as black men. And that's the term, elevated black man, because I want to create a healthy society, not a toxic society. We think about things that are passed down. And when you pass those things down, it's generational. When you say generational curses, no, I want to change that because we can have generational health too. And I think if we focus on those, that leads it to it. So as an elevated men's coach, my job is to help you think through those things that you naturally would have. We were joking earlier about talking to yourself. I think it's important that we talk to ourselves because sometimes if we don't, we have all those things just ruminating in your mind. So as a men's coach, my job is to be there for you, to help you pull out some of those thoughts. I can't therapize you. I have a medical degree, but not in therapy. So my job is to allow to have you to be seen, to have you be heard, because what society does to us, that we have a lot of judgment as a black man. We judge ourselves. But if we have these positions, just as we've done all day since I've been here, we've had great conversation, and it wasn't about drugs, sex, and sports.
Mm-hmm.
Did we talk about?
We talked about drugs.
We did talk about drugs. Okay, but that's important. Just think about it.
Offline, we talked about drugs, and not right now.
Well, drugs. When we talked about mental health and use and drugs, we talked about earth and marijuana. We talked about different alcohols and drinking. So yes, we did. Some people consider it as being drugs, but to shun that conversation,
the way that we talked about it was completely different, and there was the educational aspect, and there was things that I did not know that now I know. Mm-hmm. Like, who knows about artisanal ice?
Now,
it melts at a certain
it melts at a certain level. And listen, exactly. I got bougie.
Exactly.
Like, that's a perfect example of
ice today.
That's an exact example of growing into manhood. So I want to kind of two things. I'm gonna ask this question. I'm gonna ask Dr. Mark to leave us with a message. What would you say to your younger selves about the transition to manhood? And I mean,
it's transformational. I got to keep saying that. You say that every time I talk to you, and it's so hard to Mark, you just got to listen, trust that manhood is transformational. It just really is. So I would just say, and I'm not upset for myself, but at myself, because I think I did listen, but just listen more. Just listen more.
If it was my younger self, I would explain to them that you're transitioning into a period of transitions always. And I've recently seen something that said we're only in control of two things: how we prepare for what may come and how we respond to what actually happens. And so, like, it's okay. Like, things are going to mess up all the time. And all you can do is just prepare better and respond better. Because I know for a fact that sometimes it's my preparation. A lot of times it's my response.
Huge.
That's big.
Definitely huge. Definitely huge.
Okay, Dr. Mark, leave us with a message.
Man, the message is real simple. Again, if we were to take a second, if I had a watch, I don't have a watch on, but if we were to take our pulse, and usually you just count the pulsation for 15 seconds and multiply times 4, and that gives you your heart rate. If we had the time to do that right now, I guarantee your rate is at least 10 to 15 down from what it normally is, because we got to normalize a lot of things in this conversation. A lot of people say black men don't talk. I think we do talk. And for us, I want to be in the concept, the message is it is okay to not be okay. It's absolutely, and it sounds like a cliche, but it is, because if you think about it, and I said it to you earlier, when we came to this country, it was not normal. Right. It's just not normal how we have normalized so much of the psyche that has been placed upon us. And if we don't normalize mental health, as black men, we're going to continue to struggle with a lot of things. And again, our sisters are doing an amazing job. And I'm not saying black men, we're not strong, but we could be stronger. And learning to trust another and each other in conversation, having that transparency and being okay to be transparent about your feelings. In the greatest returns in the world, Omega Psi Phi, I've been now I'm the hugging bruh, because to me, I don't grip bruhs anymore, because it's nothing against any secrets or anything like that. It's just me. My passion is for my friends, and it's you all. So for me, I want to feel that. I really, really want to hold that, because I think having each other in our bosom is just as important as with our mothers when they hold us in our bosom. So my message is, brothers, men, black men, we have to be able to associate with each other. We have to be able to not see this conversation as being a wimp. I ain't gonna go into all these words that we grew up with of what this conversation would be considered. No, I think it's manly, very manly. And for those that are single, I think women will understand, and that's a whole nother level. But if you have a man that is in touch with himself, I think nowadays you're gonna have a woman or a circle of people that will pour more into you than the old days where you couldn't show anything and then you're left isolated. And the last thing I'll leave with is, because your life is important, the suicide rate of African-American men now is just not good. And I'm not saying it's absorbently high, but just the fact that we have black men killing ourselves, that's the last thing you would ever have as a black man killing himself, because of that family core, that ability to have that social aspect. I mean, think about it. I mean, there are brothers now that are no longer here. And I sorry I can't quote a rate, but I know it's more now than it was.
It's more than it should be.
Yeah, exactly. So I just want to leave with that. Just thank you for this platform. Finally got to meet Copeland. Finally got to meet Copeland.
Live in the flesh.
Exactly. So this is a great opportunity, and I thank you for your platform.
Oh, no problem.
And if you got money that you want to give for mental health,
go to Get My Cheese Back on My Cracker /donate. And we are here to help remove the stigma around mental health in our community by engaging in conversations like this and so many others. So go to cheeseonmycracker.com /donate. And this is another great conversation with some great people. And once again, I'm Paige for the State of the Black Man's Mental Health Podcast. And until next time, peace.